just give you like sort of a rough overview of what we'll try and go through as a big group, because we're all here now. And an overview of why people are choosing Flow, and Brian's going to walk us through that. How to get started with kitty items, which Peter and Mackenzie can walk us through. Some details on sort of where and how to get started if you're new to the space and you want business development help or resources for building practically a team or a product. And Brian's going to walk us through that as well. Give you a little sense of what's coming up and what's releasing on Flow. And then there were sort of also some miscellaneous, very specific questions that we'll try to get through at the end. You want to take us away, Brian?
Sure thing. Hey, everybody.
Oh, just real quick, has anybody started recording? If somebody does want to keep it for perpetuity, they have to start recording before, or it won't record.
Yeah, we got the recording going. Thank you for the reminder.
No problem.
Cool. Hey, everybody. Yeah, so I'll kind of start with sort of the story of like why Flow, and then can get into some of the questions folks asked about specifically the chain and what's going on here. So the story of the company really starts with a venture studio called Axiom Zen, where our CEO Roham would kind of see like emerging technologies and try to build a consumer business. So did that with like machine learning, AR, VR, and then in 2017 with the traction that was happening on Ethereum, put a small team together, put some cats on the blockchain with some gamification mechanics, and that was CryptoKitties, if you've heard of that. It was a successful project in a lot of ways. Got a lot of attention, did pretty well. Had like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of users, but wasn't successful at being a mainstream consumer application due to some of the constraints building on the Ethereum network. Namely the fees. So, you know, it's in the scale of like $10, $20, $30 at sometimes. Sometimes the fees are more than the assets you're trying to buy. The scalability, there were times when CryptoKitties was, 30% of the entire network over there. And a big one, the user experience. So if any of you have bought a CryptoKitty or a lot of things on Ethereum today, you have to download a browser extension like MetaMask, and you have to have a crypto account and buy Ethereum. You're dealing with private keys and wallets and things, and not the type of things that a mainstream consumer would really be figuring out. So that led the team to explore all the options. Read like 100 white papers, all the layer 1, layer 2 solutions out there, and really the team wasn't comfortable that any of those would solve the needs of a mainstream consumer application. And that's really what kicked off architecting a new blockchain platform called Flow that's meant to address the needs of a consumer application and scale to millions of users, millions of applications. And there's a lot of cool tech behind it and some white papers that you can find on our site. But sort of the net of the architecture is that it can scale magnitudes more than the Ethereum network, and so it can have fees that are magnitudes lower. So instead of like dollars and tens of dollars, it's more in the neighborhood of like fractions of a cent to cent for transaction fees. And we also built Top Shot. So Top Shot is the first major application that's built on Flow, and it's meant for a number of things, but one of the things is kind of to showcase that, if we can solve these issues of fees, scalability, and user experience, that there's a mainstream audience for, digital assets. And, a huge part of that user experience is that you can buy a Top Shot and you don't have to know anything about crypto. You can pay with a credit card and sort of experience that digital ownership. And so what we've kind of seen in the past few months is that those hypotheses around if we can solve those issues, there's a mainstream audience. I think the world is saying yes pretty loudly, and there's been a pretty awesome amount of inbound interest to build on Flow, and that's kind of where we are today. So Flow is live. One of the questions we got is, when is Flow going mainnet? It's live today. That Dapper Labs, we are one developer on top of Flow with Top Shot, and there are a number of other applications built by the community that are live today. And there are many more along the way. So it's live, open for business. We have a ton of documentation online. And yeah, and if you need any guidance for where to get started, you can reach out to me or check out our Discord. We have a lot of resources to help out. I'll kind of pause there. Any questions about the story or like how we got here, or sort of some of the considerations there?
More technical questions from me, but I'll wait.
Okay, I got a how do we?
Yeah.
Somebody said, how do we reach out to you? Yeah. All right, let me try to. Well, here we go. I'm gonna put my email in the chat. So you can feel free to email me, or a lot of our well, all of our developers on this call and more broadly are in the Discord channel. So if you have questions, that's also a way to get directly to them. Cool. I'll keep going with some of the. So we had a number of questions that were sent in beforehand. So I'll kind of go through some of those. But if anybody has any questions, you know, either speak up or post it in the chat, and I'll make sure we answer those. Okay, cool. So so why will top brands and creators build on Flow versus other blockchains? Great question. So Flow is the home for consumer blockchain applications. It is architected by consumer app developers for consumer app developers. And there's a lot of the architecture and the smart contract language that are meant to make it as easy as possible for you and the community to build applications that are going to scale to millions across the globe. So I named a couple of the reasons before: fees, scalability on the technical side, the user experience. So we're integrating with a lot of payments providers that are going to make payments much easier. And another big one to consider is the network effects. So with Top Shot, we've kind of bootstrapped a big, mainstream audience that, has Flow wallets. And the NBA audience is over 1 billion people across the globe. And so that's how many people kind of we're targeting, and even more to have Flow wallets. And we're going to continue to bring major IPs, which is going to bring even more audiences of users that are going to have Flow wallets in their pockets. And, when you have a base of users that are, comfortable with Flow-based assets and have a wallet that can interact with it, there's a ton of network effects that you can tap into, and you can, if you're building applications, you'll be able to, easily tap into this global audience of, creators and entertainment fans. And so we're focused on the NBA and some other, big global IPs. And a lot of our partners and folks in the community are building a lot more apps that are focused in this space. So those are a couple of the reasons. And some of the more technical reasons as well. If you check out Cadence, it's a new smart contract language that we've developed, and it's just a better language for coding, data structures that hold value. And so it's faster and more ergonomic language to develop in, and our developers can definitely go more deeply into that if folks have questions to go into there. So I'll kind of pause. Are there questions coming up?
I have a follow-up. So you you mentioned the wallets being shared. Does that mean that, like on Top Shot, where we've got the Dapper balance, assuming we launch another application on the Flow blockchain, someone who has Dapper balance and Top Shot can use that same wallet on the other app?
Technically, yes. I can go into that. So Dapper balance is represented by a fungible token called DUC, or Dapper Utility Coin. It is an internal accounting token, essentially, for them to keep track of things. And it's not actually meant for your applications and things like that. There will be an alternative to that, which is more open like that. I don't have any timelines for Dapper supporting it, but it's FUSD, which is now on testnet. So, but yes, theoretically, were you to support DUC and Dapper wallet is okay signing transactions for your contracts that use DUC. So you'd have to be in agreement with them for them to sign any transactions that have to do with DUC. It would, yes, that you would be able to use that Dapper credits on on your application. Yeah. Eventually, I believe the plan there is that there's FUSD replaces that DUC aspect.
Thank you.
And to add on to that, one of the things that James is spearheading here is working on FCL, which is basically an interface between apps and wallets. And so it'll make it easy for you as app providers to integrate with all of the FCL compatible wallet providers, which will make it much easier for for you as app developers. You don't have to make it custom code to integrate with all the wallets, and it'll make it very easy for users to bring their assets around to the different applications around the entire community. So that's something to keep your eyes on.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
On that topic of FCL and wallets, the only way that you will be able to get Dapper's payment rails will be via FCL. So like there's no other way, even for like internal projects and things like that, they will all be FCL in the future. So that is how you end up with that Dapper wallet payment rails eventually. I'm also seeing questions in the side about are all current wallets FCL compliant? No, they aren't. We're working with most of them, or any of them that reach out to us, to be compliant, and we work with them if they reach out.
So tangentially, right? Is it possible for a team to abstract all of this stuff? So for example, there's the Flow Golang SDK, right? And then there's wallets like Blockto and whatever. My understanding is that the Dapper wallet for Flow isn't accessible or available somewhere. I could be wrong. I just haven't found.
Yeah, it's not accessible or available to anybody right now, but it is. Right. It will be accessible in the same way that Blockto is.
Okay.
So you can think of FCL as like a plugin system, and Dapper wallet will plug into that.
Okay, sure. But the question that I have specifically is it feasible? Is it realistic to entertain the thought of abstracting away all of the blockchain, quote unquote, related functionality, right? On the back end side of things. So for example, someone wants to start using this game that we develop. They don't know a thing about, crypto or anything. And just like Top Shots, they want to use a credit card because that's what they have in their hand. That's what's easy. That's the UX that they know. And I think there's a game called Chain Monsters that advertises anyway that what they're doing is they're creating the account on the back end. The user doesn't know about it. They can grab it later. But is that something where the front end app would not have to implement anything, and this could be API driven? We put it all behind a gateway that we build and abstract it all away. Is that realistic?
So this stuff can get as complicated as you want it to be. Like there is no end to how complicated this can get. And the way that I would think about it is that you have your sort of core contracts, your contracts that represent the state and the logic of the application. And then everything else on top of that is sort of in addition to those contracts to give your users the experience that you want your users to be able to have. In Chain Monster's case, Max wanted this really like seamless entry into the game kind of experience. He wanted to have the items be on chain all the time and things like that. But for the speeds of the game and stuff like that, and the approval of the transactions and those sorts of things, it doesn't make sense that every time the user goes into something and does something, that they are having to manually approve a transaction or things like that. So he's created a really incredible thing that allows his backend to do most of that stuff. But that also means that technically you aren't the owner of those things because you don't have the keys for them. You're not in, like, he is acting as a custodial of those things. Like, or Chain Monsters is acting as a custodial for those things. And then he's putting in place mechanisms that you would be able to send things out of that or link another account to replace that or things like that. He's still experimenting with that stuff. It's really like the stuff he's doing is really exciting and really cutting edge. But
wait, so sorry, James, just a question. Does it mean that if I am using Go SDK or the JavaScript SDK in my backend, is there any alternative other than having to implement my own custodial wallet? So I know FCL has FCL.current user, right? Can I not just pass that information using an API to my backend?
You could do it through an API, but like you think about like ownership, right? If you're wanting to do an action on behalf of the user and from your backend, right? Like that's not like you do not have the keys. You are not the user. You don't get to be like, I'm moving this person's stuff, right? Like if you have access to an auth account of a user, you have access to everything of value that they have, and you can do irreparable damage. That is not something your backend should have access to for all of my stuff, right? That's what capabilities are for. That's what all the access controls for in the contracts, right? So if you're wanting to do something on behalf of the user, that should be in the contracts. That should be written rules in the system that everybody can see and everybody can audit, and not be, oh, give me your private key so I can do stuff for you kind of thing, right? So it's harder because it's definitely a mental shift, and like ownership is hard and scary, and like true ownership is uncomfortable for a lot of people, especially if you're like, it's your thing and you're like, well, I made it, I should be in control of it. But true ownership is terrifying in that sense, because you lose that control, and so you have to build into the contracts that control that you want in a way that kind of respects people actually owning something, and that's really hard, and that's really challenging, and that's going to be a huge hurdle for most people that end up building in Flow. But the outcome, we think, is a lot better.
Sure. So like, according to you, would the best practice be to always use the SDKs in the front end rather than the back end?
Yeah,
your problem. Sorry, go.
Sorry, I just want to make sure we're not taking up all the time on this one. Yeah. So what we're talking about here is essentially having a custodial experience where the DApp or the app is sort of managing keys, managing accounts for the user, or a non-custodial experience where the user is free to bring their own wallet. Both of those use cases are more or less demonstrated in Kitty items. More prominently, the non-custodial case, where the user brings their own wallet. In this case, you can try it out with Blockto and Kitty items. But there's also code in the Kitty items API server that shows how you would manage an account from a server and how you would sign on behalf of that account, and kind of do it all behind the scenes. So if anybody's looking for like how to actually get started with this stuff, I would definitely look at Kitty items. But the overall goal for Flow is to kind of have it be the case that the user brings their own wallet to every app, right? And that way you can have one wallet that has all of your Top Shots and all of your Chain Monsters, NFTs, and any other app, and it sort of reduces the friction for users when they go between apps, because they don't need to make an account on every single application. It'd be more of like a single sign-on thing. But then it also reduces the overhead for developers who are building applications with it, because they don't need to do all of the difficult stuff that's related to managing keys and managing accounts, and they can kind of just integrate FCL and then have a user base that's kind of already onboarded, if you know what I mean. So yeah, Max got the link there. I would definitely, if you're curious to kind of see what this looks like on the ground, definitely.
Yeah. I want to clarify one thing in what Pete just said as well, is in that Kitty items example, the stuff that's on the back end that's doing transactions and signing things isn't actually the users of Kitty items. They are special accounts that have more like Oracle kind of rights to contracts and accessing contracts. So yeah.
I think that's probably a good segue. Mac, do you want to take us through Kitty items and what it is, how it can help folks out?
Yeah, sure. Fantastic segue. It was like a half an hour segue. So yeah, we're talking about Kitty items. So it's essentially, if you're an engineer, if you're building or if you're building a team of engineers, or if you're curious about some of the stuff that we've been talking about just now, how users interact with the front end part of your application, what role does FCL play, what should I do on the back end, these kinds of things. We've sort of created this. I mean, there are two ways you could go about finding out about that stuff. You could, you could go and look at the Top Shot app or the Top Shot contracts. You could ask around in the dev Discord, or you could read through the documentation. What we've done with Kitty items is we've sort of put all of the kind of, I want to say state of the art, but the things that we understand to be best practices around building an application using building a full stack application using FCL and Cadence and the Flow CLI and all the other dev tools that we have. What that might look like, that's what Kitty items is. So if you are curious, which it sounds like quite a few of you are, to look at this, check out the link. So what does it have in there? It's a complete NFT marketplace. So it will demonstrate how to interact with the standard NFT contracts on Flow. Also, this has an example of a fungible token in there. So if you're interested in, maybe creating your own token experience, that contract is also being used inside of Kitty items. And then, yeah, like James mentioned, on the back end, you see sort of a custodial approach to taking actions like minting NFTs on behalf of your users, using using the back end, using FCL like through a RESTful API. And then on the front end, it also demonstrates like connecting to Flow directly from the browser and signing contracts, signing and executing transactions on behalf of users through the Blockto wallet. So if there are, Pete and I are sort of the primary maintainers of this project. So if you do end up looking at it and you have questions about how it's working or how to extend it or what our future plans for it are, you can find us in Discord and ask about it. I think in the future, we're planning to integrate things like FUSD and eventually the Dapper payment rails. That'll be part of Kitty items as well too, once that's all ready to go. So it's something that's going to evolve over time as well too. So that's pretty much it. If there are any questions, if people are looking at it, happy to talk about it now, or we can move on to the next thing.
I have a quick question about how you implement the sale offer, because I saw that you passed just the ID of the Kitty items, and then when the purchase is being made, you check if the actual Kitty item is still present. I was wondering if it would be also a solution to pass the resource directly to the sale offer and block it there, so that you know for sure that it can't be taken away unless the sale offer is canceled.
Great question.
Yeah, so the contract's done in a way where, so yes, so resources have to, at the end of a transaction, either be destroyed or exist in storage somewhere. So the benefit of kind of doing it, there's a couple benefits to doing it the way that the Kitty Items Marketplace works. One of them is the storage. It uses the same storage that the user already has for the actual NFT itself. So that means in like the marketplace contract, you could in fact have it so that you put the resource into that marketplace contract, but now that marketplace contract has to have enough flow to cover all the storage for all the NFTs in it, which could be substantial, right? Especially like if we were to put every Top Shot moment in, as an example, in a single marketplace, that like every Top Shot moment that's for sale in a single marketplace contract, that all of those would be in there'd have to be enough flow in the account that's covering that to cover all of that storage, which isn't necessarily doable. So instead, it's more of like a federated storage for it. So this marketplace is more, so that sort of way is kind of like this sort of centralized marketplace, pass the resource into that contract. It all gets listed, shows events, maybe you can retrieve it. It's probably easier to write it that way. The other way that was more kind of like a bazaar or like a flea market kind of situation where you're bringing kind of your booth of the things that you have for sale to it, or making it so other people can kind of find the things that you personally have for sale. And
no, I see
pros and cons to both.
I see. Perhaps is it possible to in the contract say that you can't sell, you can't borrow it, or you can't take it away from your account if there is a sale offer? Put like a block or
you could. So the marketplace could have its own collection and you could put the thing into that collection versus like you could pull it out of the one collection and kind of lock it up in the other collection. So you could do things like that. But yeah, you could.
Thanks.
Totally could.
Thanks.
All right, great. Yeah, and a lot of folks kind of ask me like where to get started just developing, and so Kitty Items is definitely one of the best places to get started. Like they were mentioning, has a lot of the frameworks and standards, best practices for building on Flow. Going to transition to sort of the next group of category of topics that we received, which is around networking and business opportunities. So like I said at the beginning, I'm a business partner. So part of my job is to really help you all to build your apps in the best possible way and connect with folks in the community. So that can manifest in a number of ways. So I'm here if you have any questions around, meeting different people or ways that we can support you from Dapper Labs. So it's really kind of a discussion. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to chat. We definitely want to support, strong projects, building interesting things on Flow. We, given, the announcement kind of last week, we have a number of like new programs that are coming out to help the community. So feel free to get in touch with me about those. We help, on the business side with, sort of matchmaking between development teams and IP partners and developers across the community. We can sort of help with how to think about marketing into the community. And then on the technical side, our Discord channel has all of our core developers here ready to support you. And we also have a forum for asking questions. And if you're not able to get questions answered for any reason, either the Discord or you can find me, and I'll make sure you get what you need. One of the questions is around a Cadence developer directory. And so one of the super exciting things is, in this point in time, there's so much excitement for NFTs and so much excitement for building on Flow, which is amazing. And the challenge is that there's way more demand than supply of Cadence developers. So that presents an opportunity for any of you here, if you are looking to get into, blockchain development and flow development. If you want to discuss, or how to get matched to some of the awesome partners that we're talking to that are looking for Cadence developers, definitely reach out to me. Happy to talk about that. And then in addition to that, if you're a team who's looking for a Cadence developer, there's a few things you can do. But one of the best places is in the Discord. There's a channel called Find or Hire. And you can go in there, and a lot of project teams have been pretty successful. You kind of post like who you are and what you're looking for, what you're trying to do. And there's a lot of developers in there that you can get in touch with in that one space. Yeah, and then the other way is to upskill your team or find developers that want to learn Cadence. And we have a ton of resources, and we're developing more and more every week. So there's all sorts of tools and our community there to support you. Any questions on any of that? Okay, cool. Yeah, Megan just posted that Find or Hire Discord link there. Okay, I'm going to move into the next group of questions here. So upcoming projects. The things we can talk about. So somebody asked, when is the UFC? So that's coming shortly. I don't have a timeline, but we'll be working with the UFC, Dr. Seuss as well. MotoGP just had a launch last week or a couple weeks ago, and they'll be having another launch shortly. And there's, what I can say is that there are over 1,000 developers building on Flow already. And a lot of these projects and infrastructure are being built right now. And so the way the community looks today and the way that it's going to look in 3 to 6 months is going to be very different. So it's a super exciting time for you all to be here. There's a ton of opportunity to be early and take advantage of being early on the network. Yeah, did I miss any that I could talk about?
I can throw it over here.
Yeah, so, go ahead.
MotoGP is gearing up to do another drop later this month, and then kind of gearing up their on-chain operations. And some people in this room are helping with that. I don't want to put anyone in the spotlight, but you know who you are. And then the Blocklead team is working on coming over to Flow. They're getting pretty close in their endeavor there. And then so Chain Monsters, they did a initial launch, and then they're gearing up to have something ready on mainnet that's playable. We need to check with their team again, but I believe it's kind of early May-ish. And Dr. Seuss is really cool. It's going to be the first sort of mobile experience on Flow. So that'll be really fun to see. And then there are some community projects that have come from people like yourselves that just kind of I've seen pop up on Discord, and I don't want to like spoil their surprise, because it's mostly been links that have been shared with me and DMs and whatnot. But it's a lot of NFT projects, some really cool art and music related projects that I've seen. I'm being vague because I don't want to sort of take away anyone's thunder in that regard, but we've seen a lot of people following the docs and adapting things like kitty items to build experiences that are currently on testnet, and helping with the final contract reviews to get on mainnet. So I think in the next month or two, you'll start to see some new names enter the field, which is really awesome. So apologies that we're kind of merging agendas here. We originally tried to have the breakout rooms, and that blew up on our face. We're still trying to figure out why. But James and I were originally going to go to a separate builder breakout meeting and talk about tech stuff. I'm going to bring some of those topics here and just cover it quickly. A big one that we've been talking about with developers all over the place on Discord, the forum, and calls and whatnot is just how do you accept payments? And we've kind of touched on it, but I wanted to give you some concrete answers about what we're doing on that front. So basically, there will be two options that are immediately available to kind of solve the UX problem of fiat payments, right? Everyone knows that taking payments with crypto is tricky, and flow, like any other cryptocurrency, is super prone to volatility and makes it hard to actually be like a coin for utility. So the immediate answer to that is FUSD, which is the first stablecoin on Flow. It's being issued by a US issuer called Prime Trust, and it's going to be available first and foremost through BlockToSwap. So what you'll be able to do, and you can currently do this on testnet, is bring Tether over from Ethereum and swap it for FUSD on Flow. And then, so that's kind of the first pass. And then the second pass is to actually have direct fiat on and off ramps for FUSD. We're working with a number, supporting a number of providers that are basically building those ramps. And I'll have more details hopefully in the coming weeks. But basically, these are providers that have done the same thing for chains like Ethereum, and it'll make it so that the flow eventually will be that you can more or less create a BlockTo account or any wallet that supports FUSD in the future, and go to one of these providers and convert either local currency or credit card payments directly into FUSD, and you'd be able to take your FUSD and kind of sell it back to these providers and have that direct fiat on and off ramp. So regarding FUSD launch, it's currently live on testnet. The docs are up on our documentation site, and it should be on mainnet in the next 2 weeks, depending on just some final work with the issuer to get that over the line. As soon as we know exact dates, all of you will know. We'll put it on Discord and announce it and make sure that's well known. But that is basically what that allows your dApp to do is use a token that will be widely accepted across all of Flow. So somebody could sign up for your application, and if they're using a wallet like BlockTo, they could bring FUSD with them. Use that in your application, use it in a peer-to-peer marketplace, use it basically wherever you want to accept a stable payment. And then because the off-ramp is handled by another provider, you wouldn't have to worry about the sort of regulatory hurdles and all the complexity of actually giving them a way to do withdrawals. So that's the one avenue. And then the second is the Dapper wallet, which James alluded to earlier. They're currently finishing up the first pass of their FCL integration. And what that allows them to do is basically provide the same experience that BlockTo currently provides, where you can sort of just plug in directly through FCL and then have anybody who has a Dapper wallet kind of come into your application. The next step on their list, and this is where we as the developer experience team are helping them, is to get the Dapper wallet example integrated into Kitty items. So you'll be able to see exactly how that works in Kitty items with a practical example. And then regarding actually exact timelines for Dapper wallet, they're taking the time to make sure it's robust and scalable and ready to go. They're taking all the learnings they're absorbing every day from Top Shot and making sure that they can scale that Top Shot experience out to other applications beyond Top Shot. So I'm going to let the Dapper team announce timelines and specifics when they have them, but just know that the Flow developer team here, we are supporting them and helping them just in the same way we did with BlockTo to get their solution into FCL. But what that'll get you is basically the same payment flow that exists in Top Shot. Yeah. I'm gonna. Sorry, were there any questions related to that before I move on? So another point was testing and review. I think this was, Lane, you maybe covered this in the chat bar, but people have had questions about what is the Cadence review process? How long does it take? And then also questions about the just the broader sort of testing requirements to get onto mainnet. So first and foremost, the Cadence review process has two main goals. A, it's to make sure that because Cadence and Flow and the system is in its infancy, we need to be careful about the applications and the code that's deployed on chain. We're approaching a 1.0 release of Cadence. We haven't set dates for that yet, but it's something that we are trying to define. And but up until then, Cadence itself is it's prone to changes, and it's something that's new and people are learning. So we want to make sure that the contracts, like the first contracts that are deployed to mainnet, are kind of exemplary of what good Cadence code looks like, and follow good security practices and all of that. And then the other piece is to give all of you the ability to feel confident in what you're deploying to mainnet. And what that gets us is a system where users feel safe and applications feel safe, and everybody has a good experience. And regarding timelines, so right now we have roughly a 2-week turnaround period for contract reviews. We are seeing a lot of interest right now. I've seen like probably 4 or 5 submissions come through in the past 2 days. So that timeline might be adjusted. I need to take a look at the queue, but typically we aim for 2 weeks, but it's might be looking more like 3 weeks right now, just to get that feedback completed. And then in addition to the contract review, we require that people have their application deployed to testnet before getting to mainnet. And what that lets us do is sort of take a look at the application and make sure that it's handling the kinds of traffic we've seen in ways that are sustainable. We have enough case studies now with MBA and Block2Swap, and then also with teams like the MotoGP, where we've seen that when people put stuff up, the users come and they come very fast, and it creates a bottleneck around things like pack drops or NFT drops or any sort of purchase or sale. People are very excited to interact with these applications. So by getting on testnet, we can actually help you simulate that load and do sort of load testing directly in an environment that resembles what mainnet looks like. And that way, when you deploy your application on mainnet, you can feel confident that you'll be able to handle the traffic that comes your way. And yeah, so I also saw somebody had a question about how to do Cadence unit testing. I don't want to get too much into it right now, but what I'm going to do is bring so we had an example of this in Kitty Items of how to actually do testing of Cadence contracts. I have a PR up. I'm going to update that. But basically the tests need to be fixed right now. And once that's merged, it'll show you an example of how you can do local Cadence testing directly against the emulator. So that's just our emulated version of Flow. It'll get you the ability to sort of make sure your contract logic works well and all that. And also I want to plug Decentology here. So Nick and Chase, who are on the call, they built a really, really awesome JavaScript testing tool that lets you automate unit tests and get pretty much complete coverage of your Cadence code. So definitely check them out. They're in a Discord and they can help you out on that front. Yeah, sorry for the long spiel, but that was the technical stuff I wanted to cover. And I will hand it. But sorry, did anybody have any questions related to anything I just mentioned?
Yeah, we're coming up to the end here. Does anybody have any questions at all?
Just a quick one about, there was a mention of that in order to get the permission to create accounts on mainnet, there's some other review process that's related to the contract review process. Like what are those parameters for someone to get access to create accounts on mainnet?
Yeah, so that's done on a case-by-case basis, Morgan. The reason that restriction's in place right now is because we haven't yet rolled out transaction fees on mainnet. So there's currently nothing stopping people from spamming Flow with a ton of accounts. So basically, the people who do have access to create accounts are like wallet providers, anyone who sort of needs to create accounts on behalf of the user. And more or less, as long as you've gone through the proper process and talked with our team and have protections in place to kind of protect that kind of spam, that's a conversation we can have. But we're hoping that'll be more open fairly soon and be something that isn't gated the way it is. But it's yeah, as long as it's being done in a way that's responsible, it's something that we can basically add you to the list.
Hey Brian, it's Gerard. So crypto is global in nature, and it seems to me like the Dapper focus has been predominantly on the North American market. So my question is, what type of partners or community initiatives exist specifically for developing the broader global flow ecosystem with a particular focus on the Asian market? Thank you.
Yeah, great question. We're definitely, focus on, everybody in the globe. I think, Wei, if you have a minute, do you want to comment on that? Are you there?
Yes. Sorry. So just to clarify, you're asking about just North America or global?
Specifically Asia. If you look at the success of any crypto protocol, whether it's Ethereum or Bitcoin, it's largely due to that very vibrant ecosystem in Asia. So I'm wondering what steps Flow is taking to develop this ecosystem, or if they're looking for third-party help in developing this ecosystem.
Well, probably, yeah, I might be the right person to answer that exactly. So just to give you a sense, even before the CoinList offering, like the community token offering on CoinList, we had a global vision in terms of community growth and seeding the, I guess, community ecosystem across each region. And one of the key regions that we outlined were indeed China, Japan, South Korea, and some of the Southeast Asian regions, right? Like Vietnam, Thailand, and also, as someone correctly pointed out, Taiwan was one of them, where we had actually our first developer meetup hosted by Blockto, which was building a wallet on Flow, and we had over 100 plus, I guess, developers join on that meetup. So traction. Let me see how I can summarize quickly. We have active community growth strategy across each of those regions since we had the CoinList offering. Like South Korea and Japan were actually some of the top participants on that, and they've been quite active. We have collaborators and partners at each of these regions. We have our community lead, a developer community lead in Japan, who have built some of the Nft Marketplace used by most of the I guess games that you find in the region. In China, we have a active team actually now growing. There's overseeing actually community growth, ecosystem, developer support, and also like some of the partnership talk that Mickey and Brian and others are having. So I would say like probably we have one of the most distributed community outlook in the sense like we, at least like from my point of view, and sorry for the missing the introduction. I'm kind of overseeing kind of the marketing on a global stage, and my personal take is like a global strategy will never work nowadays, especially in the crypto ecosystem. So my take has always been a global strategy but localized approach. So from day one, we've been empowering regional, I guess, ecosystem to have like autonomy and growing the community, but also support from the global strategy. So at the current stage, I would say we're pretty confident and comfortable how we're growing across each of those regions in Asia, and also like Russian-speaking region where if you go to Telegram, you can see like almost 10,000 members in our Russian Telegram, which is fully community run, and we're not even fully involved in that, right? So I guess like hopefully this answers your question about global strategy in Asia.
Awesome. Thanks, Wei. So we're coming up to time here. Yeah, kind of just wanted to wrap up. We're here to support you. This is a super exciting time on Flow. there's a ton of interest, ton of opportunity. We want you all to succeed building awesome, big applications. So, find us in the Discord or, wherever we are, but a lot of us are in the Discord. You can email me. Yeah, we'd love to support you. We'd love to meet you, hear what you're building. Yeah, we're very excited that you're all here. And any final words? Otherwise we can kind of wrap it up.
Did I understand correctly? A copy of this recording would be made available?
Megan, is that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it should be uploaded onto YouTube. So if you just subscribe to that page that I just linked, you'll be able to get updates for that video and any other video we upload as well.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you all again soon. And we can leave it there. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Folks, take care.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great to see you all. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.